Hi there, folks. I'm Captain JLS, and we're going to see what we can figure out about Robotech in the year ahead on this episode of this Robotech thing. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is the big, ongoing, is it going to happen project in Robotech land, and that is the motion picture. So for over a decade now, Robotech fans have been wondering, okay, are we really going to see a live-action Robotech movie in our lifetime? Is this actually going to happen? Because Robotech is a legal minefield. Bear in mind, once again, that this thing right here, this thing can't be in the movie. This can't be in the movie. Harmony Gold cannot license out the Macross iconography for a motion picture. They can't license it out for an anime TV show. They cannot make a movie or TV show themselves that utilizes the Macross iconography. This was one of the problems they had way back in Sentinels, and this is a problem that they continue to have with projects like the Shadow Chronicles. And their licensees, Warner formerly, and currently Sony, can't do that in the big budget live action movie unless miraculously somebody was able to work out some kind of a deal with Big West in Japan. So, right now, the story goes that the script by Jason Fuchs, who wrote Wonder Woman, is completed, and Andy Muschietti, the director of It, parts 1 and 2, is still on tap to direct. He's talked about it recently. He's talked about it within the last several months. But Warner's has him lined up here to do the Flash movie that has lost several directors, and an Attack on Titan movie based on the 20-teens, super popular anime franchise. And that is a franchise that is, extremely popular right now, right this very minute. It's not, an old 80s property that, hasn't had a real sequel or update since, the 2000s. So, what do you think he's going to be doing next? The Flash is supposed to be out in 2022. I suppose he could, actually get this ball rolling, and we could have a movie out for next year. But I sincerely doubt it. I just don't see it. I think what's most likely is that we're gonna wind up with another director down the road. Another director announced, and whether a movie is going to emerge from that, we'll see. I mean, we've already lost one director to a DC Comics property. James Wan was supposed to do this, and then he did Aquaman for Warner's. So we shall see, but it's really not looking like anything is going to happen anytime soon. Moving from the big screen to the small screen, and to, honestly, screens as small as this, let's talk television. Now, in talking television, we're not really going to be talking about a new Robotech project, right? Because you remember the last time we had one of those dangled over our heads, 2014, the Robotech Academy Kickstarter. One of my final straws when it came to giving Harmony Gold the benefit of the doubt. Remember how deeply unserious that effort was? When they put up that page, they were talking about, the talent that's involved, the talent that we have involved in this. and it's Tommy and it's Steve, and they got Scott Glasgow back. They've got a composer, which is nice, and he's not a bad composer. But in terms of animation, who did they have? They had the poor guys who they C&D'd, the guys from South America who were making a Valkyrie project. We got these guys to make our animation. Do you guys have a real studio though? Like a full studio who's actually going to animate the show? We got our comic artist from Robotech Voltron. He's doing designs for us. No, I mean like a real animation studio to animate your animation project. I mean, it blows my mind that they thought they could actually make their requested amount of money, without an animation studio to animate their animation project. So, should we expect any new animation from Harmony Gold in 2020 or 2021 or 2022? Not without someone else's help. Back to that in a few minutes. As far as the original 85 episodes go, and the Shadow Chronicles, those are still today streaming on Netflix. They're still streaming on Amazon Prime. They are still streaming on Crackle, which Sony has sold off to another entity. It's like Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment or some crap, but it's still there on that platform. And we just saw added within the last year Roku channel, FilmRise's own app. FilmRise is the entity whose logo comes up whenever you watch Robotech on any of these platforms. They're clearly a distributor that Harmony Gold had licensed the rights to, who then sub-licensed it to all of these outfits. And Vudu. You can watch it on Vudu, the Walmart streaming app. I think Walmart has some money in Vudu. I don't know if they wholly own it, but you walk into Walmart and it's just big things that say, watch this on Vudu everywhere. So it's effectively the Walmart streaming app. You can watch that there with ads, for free. And now, in October, a completely different film distribution company, Q Media, reported that they'd licensed Robotech to Funimation. And that included basically streaming, downloads, discs, and merchandising. Now, Funimation was the original distributor for Robotech the Shadow Chronicles, as you'll recall, back in 2007. They were the ones who released, the original disc. They're the ones who released the special edition set. They're the ones who released that special edition on Blu-ray. And the rumor goes that they had offered to Harmony Gold a big sum of money to co-produce Shadow Rising, and Harmony Gold went and decided, to head for the hills rather than take someone else's money and presumably a certain amount of control of that movie. They decided clearly just not to make the damn movie. Now, what's this current relationship like? There's a third party clearly in between, this Q Media, but could we see new Robotech animation with this new agreement with Funimation? Also bear in mind, Funimation is owned now by Sony, who have the movie rights. I still don't think any of this is going to cause anything to materialize in 2020, short of maybe a new box set. Maybe. I mean, if we all get very, very lucky. Funimation doing a Blu-ray mastering job for the Robotech animation. And maybe as part of that merchandising, maybe this is how we get, Robotech Funko Pops. Since Harmony Gold is clearly not talked to Funko, and there's other merchandising, other sort of cutesy merchandising, going on. Which here's a picture of it. These are kind of horrifying, honestly. I don't like the style of these at all. But they're also doing little pins with the same designs. That just doesn't. I'd almost rather have Funko Pops. I mean, seriously, if you give me, given the way that Funkos work, and you just get all sorts of weird characters. I mean, if you give me an entire armored 15th Squadron in Funko, I'm just gonna buy them all. That's gonna happen. I'll buy each and every one of those freaking things. But or you do the big 6-inch size and you give me a Bretai, I'm all over that. Give me that. But yeah, no. So we got the Funimation deal. That's what I kind of expect out of it at best. As with all these things, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, I can speculate and spin all day long, but as far as what the concrete reality is, we're really just gonna have to wait and see. So, moving on from moving pictures to stationary ones, as well as giant walls of text, let's talk publishing. I would say Robotech in publishing is right now in a better place than it's been anytime since the 1990s. Has been for a few years. We've had a Robotech ongoing comic book series from Titan Comics since 2017. Published 10 times a year, so not totally monthly, but still on a very regular schedule. On top of that, Titan has committed to republishing the entire history of Robotech in comics. Maybe not the entire history, but a fair chunk of it. They've already reprinted all of Kamiko's Robotech the Macross Saga, as well as the Robotech graphic novel from Mike Barron and Neil Vokes. They reprinted that in its entirety. That's something Wildstorm didn't do. They only reprinted the first several pages, the ones that cover Zor dying and launching the SDF-1, because if you recall, the rest of that story is all Roy Fokker and Global and Admiral Hayes and such, all dealing with finding the ship on going into the ship on Macross Island. That directly conflicted with that first Robotech miniseries that Wildstorm published. So they decided just to omit all that because they were very committed to just a full unified canon at that point. Whereas today, no, we're just going to reprint the history of all of Robotech, and so here's that story in its entirety. My one problem with those books, with those 3 books, is after they reprint that in its entirety, they do then go back to the files for the Wildstorm reprints of the Macross Saga with the redone lettering, which changes a few lines here and there, to better align it with, the then current Robotech canon. And it also just sort of stands out. It clearly doesn't match with the dated visuals of the comics. And then of course they didn't reprint all of that, so like the last 12 issues are the original lettering job. So that is my one problem with the Titan reprints of the Macross saga. But in the end, there's a fair chance I'm going to wind up with those, especially since I did just sell off my copies of the old Wildstorm ones. But not only that, they also did publish this sucker. This reprints all 16 issues of Robotech Do the Sentinels Book 1 and the 2 issues of the Wedding Special. The reproduction isn't perfect, and they did actually have to re-letter some of this, I think largely because of the reproduction not being perfect. I kind of wish they'd gone back to the trade paperbacks, got copies of those to scan for this, rather than what I think they did, which is actually go to the monthly comics, because I know my copy of the Sentinels hardcover 1 trade looks a bit better than this. This is really dark, really inky. But at the same time, those trades never finished the run. I think they only published up to 14. They left the last 2 issues unreleased. So, by that token, this is complete. You go and you buy this, and you don't have to go digging around for back issues. And it's got a new introduction by Jason John Waltrip, which is nice. Unfortunately, the next trade they have announced is not Volume 2 of this. The next trade that Udon is going to be releasing, Titan, excuse me, we're going to be talking about Udon in a minute. The next trade that Titan is going to be releasing, according to Amazon at least, is a 1-volume collection of all of Kamiko's Robotech Masters, plus the Robotech special for Dana Story that they published after Masters. But certainly they're going to move that back to its proper point at the beginning. And that should be out in July. July 7th is the date that Amazon has right now. Now, of course, this is subject to change. That Sentinels trade got delayed several times. So, we'll just sort of see. So Udon, I did just slip up and mention Udon. Remember this? This came out in 2017. This is the first edition. You can tell there's no little UN Spacey logo between Visual and Archive. I have not shelled out for the second edition of this, so I don't know if that's any different. So this is a ridiculous book. The idea was to go back and put a lot of these pieces of art from some of the Japanese art books out there that had never been published in an English edition. There's a lot of artwork in here that I remember from my copy of Macross Perfect Memory that had never been put into an English language publication. So Countdown, second episode of Robotech. Look at this giant synopsis. You know who wrote that giant synopsis? I wrote that giant synopsis when I was in college. This is just stuff taken from the Robotech.com website back in the day. And, that was an ongoing project that I was sort of trying to do in between, going to classes and, buying lots of anime figures and comic books. And I never finished. That's why, this is way out of place. You got the giant wall of text here, and then you go back and Booby Trap is pretty reasonable. I don't think this is mine. I don't think I wrote. I might have. That doesn't read like me. That doesn't read like my work. So, on the very, very rare chance that you run into me with a copy of this in your hand, I could autograph it for you and go, oh God. So I bring this up because we have seen a cover for the Robotech Masters book like this. Thing is, I can't find it anywhere on the web, but I know I've seen it. I think it's from a slide from one of Harmony Gold's, Dog and Pony Show, panels during the year. And the thing that I'm thinking is, I know I wrote some Robotech Masters episode synopses for Robotech.com, so am I going to have another one of those moments where I go, oh God, I wrote that in college too, like 15, 16, 18 years ago. Oh my word. But yeah, I mean, seriously, no, that book, I would really love for that to come out. I would love to have an English language book that has a lot of that artwork that we've seen in like the This Is Animation book. Honestly, goodness, of course, my dream is for them to put out like a real art book for all of the Sentinel stuff. Or, maybe even a joint Sentinels and Shadow Chronicles book. Because remember back at, I contributed to the Sentinel, the Shadow Chronicles art book that came out around the time the movie came out. And I know for a fact, like, all of the artwork in there was so small. All of like the cool behind the scenes art was done so small. And I remember the reason was that, there was a fear that somebody was just going to scan it and just put it up on the internet. So they reproduced it really small, and the digital screen grab is giant. I think that thinking has gone away. And so I would love to have some of that stuff at like a good size. And I would especially love to see some of those ship designs, in good detail. Speaking of details, so role-playing books. That's basically all I buy role-playing books for. I don't actually play any of the games. I just want all the, crazy amounts of factual data. I haven't actually gotten a Robotech role-playing book since the version 2 New Generation book. So I'm missing RAF Marines and the Genesis Bits book, which now go for like $300, $400, $500 since Plagan lost the license. But Robotech role-playing books are back. Battlefield Press produced a Macross book for their Savage Worlds system back in August. 157 pages. Again, I haven't seen this book. I think there's also a Spanish language edition, which is cool. I just saw a picture of that. Meanwhile, Strange Machine Games is putting out a big hardcover Robotech role-playing book. This, as I understand it, is like the real successor, to the Palladium line. It's of course completely different system, but this is like the actual, this is the Robotech RPG Volume 1. For the 2020s onward. There's 265 pages, and again, this is not my area, so there are going to be other people who actually get that book in, these books in, and cover them in detail. But I expect we're going to probably see a Masters book after that, and a New Gen book, and la-di-da-di-da. So, but Strange Machine Games, these are also the guys who have been doing like Robotech board games and dice games. They did British for Impact Attack on the SDF-1, Ace Pilot dice game, the Cyclone Run dice game. And while I'm just rattling off game information here, there's also that another company that's been doing Robotech card games Force of Arms, a Macross card game, and Crisis Point, a Robotech Masters card game. Those are from Solar Flare Games. I admit I've almost bought that Crisis Point game just because it's Robotech Masters stuff. The nice thing about all these games is that you do get a lot of new, unique artwork, but I know I've heard just chatter online. These are basically these are fairly rudimentary games, and it's just like an old licensed board game where, you have little standees and stuff, for like your favorite cartoon. The real sort of fun of it is, it's basic mechanics with your favorite license attached to it. And for some people, that's enough. So, but, yeah. So that's it for publishing and I guess games as well. And so let's move on to toys. Actually, what we're kind of going to start with is a segue out of games and into like statues and stuff, because you got this outfit, Kids Logic, who have been making ludicrous, expensive, high-end Macross statues and such for years now. These are the guys who are doing like these $250 Valkyrie busts, that ridiculous $2,000 SDF-1 with all the lights. And I think it's also a Bluetooth speaker. When they do these big, elaborate pieces, they're like always also a Bluetooth speaker for some reason. But the funny thing is they're also doing these little mini wargame figures, kind of the successor after a fashion to the ill-fated Robotech RPG Tactics game. And I've heard some of those are as bad as the RPG Tactics figures were, but and then some of them aren't. Some of them, I understand, are actually pretty. And I wouldn't say easy, because these are still like really tiny pieces, but they aren't as infuriating as the RPG Tactics figures were to build. And it just strikes me as so funny that this licensee, you're either doing the $2,000 thing, or here for $12, have a couple little Valkyries you can put together. But that's all stuff that I'm not. Again, it's like the RPG stuff. I'm staying far, far away from that because A, I can't afford the statue stuff, and B, I do not have the patience to put those little figures together. Hey, did you know Toynami still makes Robotech stuff? Seriously, like, Toynami is still making Robotech stuff in the year 2020. The guys who brought you the Robotech Masterpiece Collection and, the rinky-dink morphers. They're re-releasing the stupid little pullback morphers, the Macross ones. But what they are releasing that's actually new and interesting is they're doing a second wave of their 4-inch character figures. They're doing Rick in his dress uniform, they're doing Lisa, they're doing Claudia, they're doing Captain Global, and they're doing Ben in his flight suit. Now, the unfortunate thing is Ben in his flight suit is just the generic body from Rick, Roy, and Max from Wave 1. So he's the wrong size, and like the head doesn't quite look right. So I mean that's a disappointment. But getting Claudia and getting Lisa and getting Global is pretty great. It's the kind of thing that makes me wish I still had my SDF-1 playset, because oh my god, you have Lisa, Global, and Claudia, and you can put them in the playset right, and oh man, that would be wonderful. That would be so great. But where my actual excitement is right now in terms of Robotech toys is Kit's Concept. Now, on the one hand, they are doing their 1/72nd scale Valkyrie line. They're putting out a Vermilion one this year. That looks cool. If I've got $150, in the budget for a new Valkyrie, when that comes out, I might do it. But then I've been saying I might do it with that ever since they put out their Fokker Skull 1. I just never get around to it. But what I have all pre-ordered right now is their 1/12 scale character figures. Here is their most recent one. Here's Rick. Here's Rick in his box. And he's all sort of thin and gangly. I've heard that getting him to scale better with Minmay involves like doing a little extra dremeling in his ankles. You can sort of see here. The sculpt is such that you could probably push those farther in, and it would make him scale a bit better. But I don't have the tools, or and I'm a little afraid to do that with like a $60-some collector's figure. So Lisa's supposed to come out next. She was actually supposed to be out in December. All of these have run a couple of months late, so I expect to see her show up anytime between now and April. Then after that, you've got Roy. And if you order Roy now from either Kids Concept or Big Bad, you also get his guitar, so he can then slump over on his girlfriend's couch and die. And then there's Minmay in her Chinese dress, and that also, if you order it now from Big Bad or Kids Concept themselves, you get a separate like wavy hair piece for like the first release Minmay, which is really cool. It gives you another option for displaying her. And then after that, we've seen pictures of Dana Sterling in her, like regular uniform and in her armor. And oh my God, I am so hyped for that. I am so excited about that. It's the kind of thing I never expected to see. I am ecstatic about that. And, that is either going to come out this year, or maybe it might slip to next year. But, no, I mean, the minute both of those come up for pre-order, I'm, bam, I'm there. I don't care. How much? I don't care. Just give me the 1/12 scale Dana figures. And, I mean, who knows what they're going to do from there. I'm so hyped for that. It's ridiculous. But other things I'm hyped for. Map Toys. This is a little outfit out of Utah. And they just got their first figure out. And it's a 6-inch Brie type figure. I have mine ordered. I still don't have him in yet. I'll have him shortly. You bet I'll be talking about that figure here once it comes in. Their second figure is supposed to be an Invid Scout. Like a properly sculpted, properly designed Invid Scout. Not like, we got the... let's grab him here. He's right here. Not like, it's a Trooper in Scout colors. I mean, it's a nice figure, but it's a Trooper in Scout colors. No, we're getting a proper Invid Scout now. But God, the things that he's prototyped, either just in CAD or actually had a physical copy of. This is a guy who's done a physical model of an Invid Regent figure. He's talked about doing a Hellcat. Okay, if I get Sentinels figures in 2020, I can just drop dead. No biggie. I could die happy, knowing that, we've actually gotten, the dream has come to pass, I've got, actual figures representing, the Sentinels things that, I never expected to see ever reach any sort of tangible reality. No, I still, want to, stay on this physical plane so that, maybe I could be, excited about other things. But no, a Regent and a Hellcat. Give me those. What is the world coming to? Come on. Yeah, and I think that's everything I know about right now. So what I'm just going to say to you is, if you know of anything that I've missed, let me know in the comments. I'll go take a look at it. I might do an addendum video. You know, it's possible. It's definitely possible. But right now, that's all I know about. And you know, you've certainly heard all the things I'm most excited for. I'd also be interested. What are you most excited for coming in 2020 as far as Robotech stuff goes? On that note, hey, this is Captain JLS signing off. 2 weeks. First part of the actual proper Titan review starts. So I'll see you then.